Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today, I have with me Jamie Elvin of Strive Mortgages. Now, Jamie has been a mortgage advisor since 2012, and in May 2022, so coming up to the year, he decided to leave the corporate world of being a mortgage broker and decided to set up his own company. So I thought it'd be really good to have him on today, talk through his experience of setting up, what his highs have been, what his lows have been over the last 10 months, and everything in between. But most importantly, because this is a question we're getting asked a lot at the minute, how do you generate brand new business, especially if you're starting from scratch? So without further ado, Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Chris. How you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks yourself.
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time out, because we were having a chat before the podcast started and you were saying that it is mental at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, since I think it was obviously quietened off a little bit tail end of last year, but certainly for myself at least, January, sort of since the start of January, I've come out the traps and it's been really, really busy. So so far so good.
Good news for you. And you were talking about a nice problem to have it at the minute is you're thinking about maybe going into adding to the team to give you a bit more time back, and we'll get into that. And they're all nice problems to have. But what we're going to do to start with is talk a bit about where you've come from to get to this point. So can you give us a bit of a background of who you are, what you do, and how you've got to this point today?
Of course, yeah. So started a company called Strive Mortgages, which I started in May 2022 last year.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I've been employed, as an employed mortgage advisor and in the financial services for most of my career. Since I was 17, dropped out of college after the first year, just wanted to go and earn a bit of money, and went and started a cashier role at the Halifax. And I was just
how you got into it.
That's it, yeah. So just High Street Bank down in Lewis. Worked my way up through the ranks, sort of became a personal banker, started opening credit cards and loans. And then really at the time, there was only sort of two paths of progression within the Halifax branch network. So you could either go branch manager or mortgage advisor. And I didn't want to be a branch manager, so I thought mortgage advisor it is. And just sort of studying for it. I'd always had an interest in finance, but just became a mortgage advisor with the Halifax.
Why did you do mortgage instead of bank? Why did you go that way?
At the time, I think the branch manager role was it was about managing the branch and all the people. And at that time, it just wasn't for me. I preferred the finances, doing the customer service side of things. I was quite good with numbers. So it just seemed a logical step.
Right, okay.
But yeah, at the time, it was more just they were the two options, and that was the more favourable one. But
it's funny because the people that we have on the podcast, I don't think anybody comes, well, there are people out there, but I don't think the majority of mortgage advisors come out of school or college and go, I want to be a mortgage advisor.
No, you're not wrong.
Like some people we've had on in the past, they've been invited to like a recruitment drive by one of their mates just to fill up the numbers and become a mortgage advisor off the bat. Can't remember who that was, but great story. But it is such a rewarding, I've never done it. But from the outside looking in, it does look like a really rewarding role. So I want to talk about that today. People that might be thinking about going out on their own or becoming a mortgage broker and showing them and how rewarding it is. So you're at the bank. How long are you at the bank for?
I was there. So I started when I was 17. I was there for about 7 years. I did, I think, 3 or 4 years sort of doing credit cards, loans, the personal banker role, and then became a mortgage advisor for the last couple of years, 2-3 years. Yeah.
And then you went on to like a corporate company and started doing mortgage broker. Was that within an estate agency, was it?
Yeah, so I went to a big corporate estate agent, and again I was there for another 7 years. And made the jump. So
learning lots.
That's it. When you were at Halifax, it was a good platform, but you had maybe 10 lenders, and it was sort of you're limited as to what you can do. So I think the next natural step for me at that point was to go into the estate agency mortgage broker world, which I did that for a long time, and then obviously wanted to expand from there.
Teaches you a lot, doesn't it? When I worked in a estate agency, the mortgage broker was there to give mortgage advice, but it was almost like a sales role, and you had to learn how to sell yourself, didn't you?
100%. And I think from anyone that I know that owns sort of mortgage companies locally, a good percentage of them have come from doing that estate agency role, because I think you are fighting for business, whereas I think lots of you're dealing with people that don't necessarily want to speak with you. So therefore, as you said, it's a bit of a sales role where if you work for, a big online mortgage company and you're getting people coming to you and sort of passed you on a plate, sure, they're still equally as good mortgage brokers, but as you said, it's not necessarily a sales role. So I think having that sales experience on the estate agency side is definitely worth having.
It's interesting you say that, actually, like an online company or a bank, for example, the people they'd be sat in front of you and they're pretty much nailed on. They want the mortgage sorting. So I don't think there'd be much rapport building you'd need. Whereas if you're in an estate agency where somebody's been sat in front of you, they don't really want to be there, with all due respect, come into a mortgage company. It's that, I suppose 90% of that appointment is all about rapport building, isn't it? And you need to be able to sell yourself, especially if you're going to go out on your own. And we'll get into that shortly as well.
100%. But yeah, you'd find, a lot of your business, you'd be trying to win on an offer check. So at the last minute when someone was offering on a property, and they might have spent 2, 3, 4, 5 months with another broker, and you're coming at the last minute going, do you want to use me? And in most instances, you probably all got the same products, for most brokers out there. So you're literally, as you said, you're just trying to win it on personality and rapport with, a fraction of the time involved, and sometimes less trust from them as well. They don't necessarily always like the estate agency mortgage broker. So if you can do well in it, it's a tough crack sometimes. Set
up on your own if you can do that, because do you know what I mean? If you can do it in the hardest part doable, then you can generate your own leads. So you're at the estate agency. I suppose the big question is, why did you set up on your own in such a tough time as well? Yeah,
I think so. As I said, I was there for 7 years. You work your way up and you start getting promoted, and you get paid better, and the longer you stay there, the harder it is to walk away. I was in a good office, a busy office, up with a good team, and I was earning decent money. And yeah, it is hard to sort of walk away from. But ultimately, I thought, if you don't go at some point, you're going to be there, in your 40s and 50s. And you need to get out while you can. But I think I looked at sort of there. So I toyed with the idea for maybe 2 or 3 years, and I looked at different types of self-employed. So going to work for someone else, maybe on a self-employed basis and taking a cut of the commission. And it never really crossed my mind to go sort of outright and set up my own company. But when I was out there sort of speaking to people and looking at the different prospects that were available, I just thought at some point, if I went to working for someone else on a self-employed basis, in a couple of years' time, I'll get the bug and want to go and do it myself. So I thought I'd make the big jump. And I spoke to a couple of people that have been mortgage brokers that were at the previous company I was at. And one of them was actually on my training course with me 7 years ago. I saw he set up a year ago before me, and he was doing really well. He was loving life. And he just said to me, the first bit really is mindset. And, once you can get over that hurdle of thinking, you can't do it, he said everything else comes from there. So, yeah, a guy called Steve Humphreys, I think you've spoken to.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably he's probably the most instrumental guy in it, in sort of talking me around to his way of thinking.
Oh, and Sam Mason as well, who we've had on the podcast before, yeah.
And Sam as well, yeah, absolutely. So I think those two, both spoken to a lot of other brokers and done a lot of research in it. So, they saved me a lot of time in looking into different options as well.
And which route did you take? Because I don't know this question. Which route did you go? DA? Did you go into network? How did you go into a club?
Yeah, no, so I've gone under a network, so I'm with Primus. So there were some models where, for example, I could work for someone else on a self-employed basis. And, they might give me leads. They might give me, 5 leads a week, but they take a cut of those leads, and you generally get a smaller cut than if you go outright and do it for yourself. Whereas if you just go and set up your own AR firm, you've got no leads, but you haven't obviously got to pay someone else a piece of the pie. I just decided, to go to go all in and do it myself and just set up with a network.
Okay. So now I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, because there will be some people out there that are in a similar position to you where they might have set up 6 months ago. They're thinking about setting up. What would you say is the best part about going it alone?
I think it's the flexibility. So it depends what company you're in at the moment. But I enjoyed where I was working before. But it was a tough gig. It was 8:30 till 6 o'clock. started off 6 days a week for the first couple of years of my, the first couple of years of my time there. And I think it's the flexibility. So as I said to you before the podcast started, I'm probably doing those hours, but
you're doing more now
I'll
than
probably
you
do
did
more,
when you was employed. Yeah.
But the idea is that you get to a position where you can protect. You've got the potential to recruit, and and you can reduce that workload, or even if you are doing the same workload, it's your name's above the door, and you've got a bit more pride about what you do. So I think having that autonomy and flexibility is massively important. And obviously the idea being that the pay in the long run is better as well, of course.
Because you were talking beforehand, before we came in here, you were saying you've been doing 7 till 7, pretty much 6 days a week for the last 6 months. November and December were different.
Yeah, I think So I think it takes time to learn the new systems and what have you. But yeah, it's been a good problem. I've been but I've been doing, I don't know, say 13 to 20 mortgages a month without an admin. So yeah, there's been higher, sort of busier periods and less busier, but yeah, there's been many a day where I've done 7 till 7. So I said to you earlier, I'm getting to a point now where I need to recruit and get someone to come in and do the admin.
I mean, we've had loads of people on here that talk about how to recruit good staff, like John Stones from Mortgage First. He talks about it. Matt Colson talks about the apprenticeship scheme. So if anybody is listening to this wondering how to get good staff, there's plenty of episodes. So go and have a little listen to Matt Colson's, Nicola Mackenzie's, and John Stones. Those are the ones that spring to mind about how to get good staff. So talked about the best part. What would you say is the hardest part of doing it?
I think that will vary, depends. For me, it hasn't. I thought it was going to be, finding the business, but luckily I've got some good estate agents on board, and the business there has been there really. So I think depends on where you're coming from and how well you do. But for me, it hasn't been finding the business. So I thought it was going to be finding the business and not having any money for a year or so. But no, I've been really busy. I think, as anyone knows that is a mortgage broker, it's a 40, 50, 60 hour week job in itself. And, that coupled with trying to run a business, doing your social media and everything like that, and wanting to build a brand is sort of fitting it all in at once. It's switching off as well. So, you'll be doing your mortgage job from 7 till 7 or 9 till 5 or whatever you're doing. But it's after that, you've still got to find the time to run your business and do all the other bits. So it's that time management for me that's been probably the trickiest bit. The
hardest bit. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say it's that time. So you're never going to turn away somebody phoning you going, I want an appointment. And no. You're not going to turn around and go to them, oh, actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, I can't see you. I've got to upload 10 social media posts. You're never going to do that. So it is a great problem to have. And like you say, it's thinking about the business. Do you ever get it where you, say if your alarm's due to go off at, say, 7 and you wake up at 6 and all you can think about is all the files that you've got to deal with today?
Oh yeah, it's that. It's you've got my notes section in my phone. I've probably got 150 pages of notes in there just for different ideas, and it's no idea is a bad one, but it's just sort of trying to work out what what to focus your energy on and sort of how to divide your time. But yeah, I think from
your first 10 months is business. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're building a back, but because the business that you're doing now is 2 or 3 years down the line renewals, isn't it? And it's them speaking to 10 people about you. So yes, I say social media is very important, but when you've got people knocking at your door, it's very hard to turn that business down. You've almost got to try and carve some of that time out a week or pass it on to somebody else that can do. And we'll talk about social media shortly, but time management, I think you're saying there, is the hardest thing.
Yeah, without doubt, yeah.
So I like asking this question of people that have just set up. So you've left your role as the estate agent mortgage advisor. It's your first day as Strive Mortgages. Talk us through what happened on that day and how you were feeling.
Yeah, it's weird. So I've started working from home, which I hadn't done for years either. I do work a couple of days in an estate agency. So firstly, you've just got the change in working environment. So going from a busy estate agency office to sort of working on your own. So that's the first bit. For me, I had referrals and that coming in, but I think the hardest bit to sort of get your head around initially is when you're in an estate agent, you're expected to do 10, 15 mortgages a month. And in reality, whilst when you go self-employed, you of course still want to match those numbers, because you're getting a bigger piece of the pie, you don't necessarily need to be. So it's again trying to get your head around the fact that of course you want to be as busy or busier than you were previously, but you don't actually need to be. So whereas there you'd literally be flat out, so it was that initially, for the first month or so, it was that void of just thinking, what am I going to do for 10 hours a day to fill my time? Obviously the business then came in and that's changed a little bit, but initially that was my initial reaction.
So you were almost sat there thinking, how am I going to generate this business? And it was coming to you. How did your first few leads come in then?
So I went on LinkedIn initially, and I sort of reached out to in the time between leaving and the void period I had there. I went out on LinkedIn and messaged lots of estate agents, and a lot of them knew me from where I'd sort of come up against them and sort of had mutual clients in the past. So I got a lot of estate agency referrals. I started doing Instagram and Facebook posts, which I hadn't done before. So I think it was just getting that awareness out there that although I've been a mortgage advisor for however many years, it wasn't generally the first thing I spoke about when I went out. So it was just getting that awareness and putting a few posts and things out there, and people didn't really realise that you were a mortgage advisor. So it was referrals. And
so you're talking like friends and family there. You're talking friends and family and telling them you're a mortgage broker.
Yeah, so it's doing posts and doing a LinkedIn post and saying I've gone self-employed and do and putting content out there on Instagram and yeah, it was just friends of friends is the main one. Initially that I've just had would be the main ones initially.
Right, and that was that through LinkedIn or was that through Instagram, Facebook, or was it all?
So I think. From my experience, Facebook and Instagram is better for friends of friends, and potentially depending on how you how you go about it, then obviously you can expand and get more clients on sort of customers on board. I don't think, from my experience, that LinkedIn is the place to pick up customers as a mortgage broker, but you're more likely to pick up introducers on there. So I've found financial advisors and estate agents that are passing me leads off of there. So might be different for everyone else, but that's how it's been for me.
Okay. So when you started out, and I want you to be as honest as possible here, because I think a lot of people will resonate with this. So you had Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and it's your first week, it's your first week of your void period that you're generating leads. Did you have a strategy of how to approach it?
No, so I hadn't really, so where I was employed, I hadn't had the need to do it. I hadn't really used social media. I might have put the old post up on my dinner or something, but I hadn't used it in any idea. So I spent a lot of time Googling and sort of working out strategies and following other people's pages and sort of liking stuff randomly. But no, I didn't have a strategy. I wasn't getting much interaction or engagement from them. So no plan initially, no.
And that's what I want people to realise, that especially with social media, a lot of people think, and you see this a lot online, that some guy's got one video and it's got 50,000 views and they're like, oh my God, I need to be like that, so I'm never going to start. You can just start. Don't think that you have to have this well thought out strategy, because it will change. For example, I've got a business coach, and he did this whole strategy around lives and did a whole year's worth of content purely about doing Facebook lives, and then did one and was like, this isn't working for the audience, so scrap the whole thing. You need to realize that with social media, you just need to start and then get feedback from the content that you put out there. And I've seen that with your content, because you moved from like very generic content into personal stuff with your face on it, didn't it? You did a bit of video. Well, I want to talk about the static posts, because they do really well now, don't they? I've seen those.
That's it.
But before we get onto that, let's talk about video. How do you use video at the minute?
Yeah, so I think in terms of, I've seen a lot on what you do in terms of building a personal brand, and I think, yeah, I think that's using personal brand is the way really to sort of break through. So I started doing videos, doing sort of useful hints and tips, and I think when they go on reels on Instagram or Facebook, the numbers that it attracts are so much more. I've got 16,000 views on one Facebook reel. And it's all fairly basic stuff. It's what's an agreement in principle, how much a lender's considering using. And it's all stuff that I think, is anyone really interested in this? Surely everyone knows you can get 4.5 times to 5 times your income. And it's even when I'm out in the pub and people will go to me, your videos are so thorough and you know so much. And I was thinking, I literally don't. It's all basic stuff that every mortgage advisor knows.
But you know so much compared to the general public. And when you take your car to a mechanic, they know so much more than you. They're like, well, it's just an oil change. Well, I didn't know that. Do you know, it's your expertise in your field. Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
No, 100%. Yeah. So I was going to say, certainly in terms of the viewing numbers from the reels, it makes a big difference. And you potentially go into the thousands or tens of thousands if it catches sort of Instagram on the right algorithm on the right day. But I think, posting regularly and doing personal branding as well as, your business branding, is massively important.
And that kind of content that you're putting out there, what is an agreement in principle? I hear people are hesitant to do it because they see so many other mortgage brokers do those videos. What we can't forget is if you're a mortgage broker, the majority of your audience that you follow are probably mortgage brokers as well.
100%.
So you're seeing that thinking it's all out there. But Mary Smith, who lives down the road, she might only follow 1 or maybe 2 mortgage brokers in her whole social media feed. So she will never see all these other mortgage brokers doing it. You could be the one. And that's exactly what Jamie's saying there, is he's doing very macro level. What is an AIP? How much can you borrow? Because these are the questions that people want answering. And that's, I think personally, why they reach so many people, because it's very low level. It's very stuff that we think is normal.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think if I did a couple of videos on sort of detailed limited company director income, and you widen your search area a lot more if you do it generically. And I think when you've maybe got 500 to 1,000 followers on Instagram, you want to sort of have the net as big as you can, really. So yeah, I think having it generic and simple, maybe targeting first time buyers, for me is had the best response.
Where you wanted it. So your videos, they do take a bit of time because you've got to put some time aside to record them, the script, what you're thinking. You do a lot of your static images, so the visual, like we create for people. How do you find those go down with the audience?
I think for my personal ones, so I'll literally just do hints and tips on there. They get engagement. I think the reels seem to get more exposure on them, but I think it's probably a combination of having both, isn't it? So from my experience, the reels have got more. But yeah, I think both have been good as well.
It's having that backup, isn't it? Because you can create that post in 5 minutes and share it. Whereas if you're doing a video, it does take a lot longer, but you need that mix because not everybody watches videos as well. So it's nice that you've got that balance.
That's it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're at work, sometimes you can't listen to videos. So when it comes to content ideas for your posts, where do you get the content ideas from?
I think, again, as you said, when you're a mortgage broker, you sort of do follow a lot of the other mortgage brokers. So, on my Instagram feed, it will be, it will be rammed full of other brokers, and it's quite easy to take ideas off of there. I might just Google, just Google the top searched mortgage questions, and that's what people want to know, and that's what people are looking at. So either Google or just sort of taking ideas of other people, or occasionally might have my own idea as well.
Okay, awesome. Just some people that listen to this might think, oh, where do I get the ideas from? So that's a great succinct list of exactly where you get them from and what you can do with them on social. So we've covered Facebook and Instagram. We're going to quickly touch on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, I've seen your name all over LinkedIn. Do you use it? And I think you've answered this question a roundabout way before. Do you use it for business generation or to increase your personal brand?
I think a bit of both, but yeah, initially I haven't got a plan as to what it. Yeah, I didn't have a plan, so I was just posting out there. I said I haven't really had any business generation from it or any customers message me, but it was just getting that brand exposure out there. And initially, when I first started off, I was just messaging hundreds of financial advisors and estate agents. And yeah, obviously, if they know who you are and they can see you on there every day, they're going to have a lot more chance of wanting to work with you. So yeah, brand exposure really. If I pick up the odd customer off of it, great. But yeah, business exposure.
How effective did you find like that cold outreach of messaging people? Like, what would you say your success rate was with that?
So to begin with, again, I probably had a 2-3 week garden period where I was leaving my current employer. So I just messaged hundreds of people on Instagram. And it's not that time consuming in that, if you got one message and you copy and paste it, all you really need is one introducer off the back of it. So I thought, if I spend 2 hours doing this and one person responds to me, then then it's an exercise worth doing. But I did it for a massive estate agent down here. They knew of me anyway, as I said, but I was messaging them through LinkedIn, and I now work with them in 2 of their offices, and I probably get 80% of my business from them, or 70% of my business from them. So I think, that's from LinkedIn, and that's effective cold calling or cold messaging. So in terms of strategy, that's probably had the best results.
That's a great way. I heard something similar about this. It's like, say, if you work out how many no's it took you to get to that person saying yes, say if it was 21 no's, well, as soon as you got 5 no's, you'd be like, right, I've only got 16 left till I get that answer. Do you know, it's a great way to look at it. Say if you spent 20 hours messaging people and you got that one estate agency lead for 80% of your business, that's massive. That is huge. So go and try it.
And I think you get that as well, working in an estate agency. We in a big corporate estate agency, we were given a list of maybe 100 people to phone out. And it's mind-numbingly boring, but we would say if you get 2 out of that list and you get 2 instructions or 2 mortgages out of it, it's worth doing, and it's free, isn't it? Sort of messaging people on LinkedIn. So as you get busier, you might not have the time to do that, but certainly when I was starting out,
best way to do it.
Best way to do it, yeah.
And I think that's going to lead us perfectly into the strategy question, talking about how to generate new leads. But before we get into that, we donate £10 to a charity of your choice, Jamie. So which charity did you want us to donate to?
Thank you. Can we do the Dogs Trust, please?
The Dogs Trust, yeah. Have you got dogs yourself?
I haven't, no, but no, my parents have, but they got a little Labradoodle, but no, I haven't myself.
Right, okay. Right, we'll make that donation for you.
Thank you.
So we're now going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland. You've got a laptop, a mobile phone, and an internet connection. What do you do to start generating mortgage leads?
Yeah, I think we're quite lucky now in that, location isn't as important as it was previously, and you can do that. You can pick up and go everywhere. But yeah, I think what we said, it depends on what your budget is. If you haven't got deep pockets, then you want to do all the things that don't cost you anything. So social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the things that we just mentioned. And just reaching out to as many people as you can on LinkedIn and trying to get meetings set up and going for coffees with potential introducers, and sort of really working on your personal brand and sort of working the social media. I think website as well. So I'd invest in your website. So that people, when they do come across you, they can sort of go on your landing page and see that you know what you're talking about and verify you, and sort of spending time investing on your content for your website, I think would be massive. And then what I did as well was really focused on reviews. So when you start doing mortgages for people, it's getting them leaving your 5-star reviews on Google or Trustpilot, because I think, in my view, sort of Google reviews is the
Sorry, guys, you might have listened. There was a bit of a drop out there. But Jamie was talking about Google reviews and how important they are for mortgage business.
Yeah, so I think, exactly that, massively important. So when I started out, I really focused on sort of building up my reviews. And in the area I'm in a short period of time, I've got to top in Hove for Google reviews, and I'm second or third in Brighton at the moment. And I've found since doing that, the level of business I've had and the amount the phone keeps ringing has increased dramatically. So it's free advertising, takes a while to do it. If you're in an area where people haven't invested their time in getting their reviews up, then you can get there pretty quickly. If you're in a competitive place like London or somewhere like that, where you might be up against companies with hundreds or thousands of reviews. But yeah, I think Google reviews for me has been really important.
At what point do you ask for the Google reviews? Is it at the beginning, at the end? Where do you ask?
So I do it on offer stage. So I think sometimes, I think, if you do it on completion, then, you run the risk of them moving into the homes and just forgetting about you, and it's quite hard to track them down. Don't get me wrong, the job's not finished at offer stage by any means, but people are generally at their happiest and they're sort of happy with what you've done. So I get them on mortgage offer.
Okay. And what I was going to ask, I wanted you to finish talking about Google reviews. When you were talking about the outreach, so you're messaging people through LinkedIn or through Instagram, how do you ask the question without being really, really salesy?
In terms of for introducers?
Yeah.
Or...
So what does your message look like if you could share it with us?
No, yes, it was a while ago now, but it would have just been something like, I see you run an estate agency. Do you currently have a mortgage broker in there? If you don't, would you be open to having a conversation about what we could do or what I could do for you? I think I might have put some of my stats on there and said what I converted and how much I've made for the company. And I'll be really keen just to have a 5-minute conversation with you to tell you what I can do.
That's interesting to put in stats in there as well, just as a bit of a proof, or it could be like a link to your Google reviews or something to say these customers. This shows the kind of service that we offer at Strive Mortgages.
Definitely, I think if I was to do it now, anyone I speak to, so any lead I get from an estate agent, if I can't contact them, I'll email them. I'll have all my reviews on there, so that even before they've picked up the phone to you, they can see who you are and read your reviews. If I started messaging people on LinkedIn now, I'd definitely add the reviews on. I think when I was starting out, I just didn't have many, so I just didn't have much to send them. But now, for sure, definitely.
So we'll try and get as many Google reviews as possible. And
one last thing on that. Sorry, Chris. I was going to say I've had 2 or 3 introducers, local estate agents, phone me and sort of said, I've been looking for a mortgage advisor to pass business to, and I've seen you're one of the top in your area, so I've actually got introducers off the back of it as well as appointments.
Which I suppose wasn't your initial point of doing the Google reviews or doing that outreach. Well, it was the outreach, but not the Google reviews. That's interesting. So introducers have found you off the back of Google reviews as well.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Unless you know of someone, I don't think there's a better way to judge what you do really, other than reading the reviews.
No, there's not. That is the perfect way to end the podcast. Get Google reviews to get introducers, let alone new clients, because they will bring you business in. Awesome. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Where's the best place for people to connect with you if they had any questions or they wanted to have a chat?
I think, depends what platform you're on, but probably LinkedIn's probably easiest, or if not, I'm under Strive on Instagram.
Awesome. Go and connect, have a chat with Jamie. As you can tell, lovely guy. Is there to have a chat with anything that you'd need help with, I'm sure. Jamie, thank you very much for coming on. Been a pleasure to have you. Cheers.
Good to see you, mate.